The day I discovered my wife's secret group chat was the day I learned that revenge, like a good wine, gets better with age. And trust me, I was about to serve a vintage that would leave Golden Hollow's finest choking on their own pretensions. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My name is Jack Donovan, and I'm a defense lawyer who spent 15 years protecting criminals from justice. Turns out, I should have been protecting myself from my own wife. Golden Hollow is the kind of place where the lawns are perfect and the marriages are not. Every house looks like it was torn from a Better Homes and Gardens magazine, complete with white picket fences and the obligatory Range Rover in the driveway. It's a suburb where status is measured in square footage and gossip travels faster than the morning coffee delivery. I live at 42 Maple Lane with my wife Vanessa and our 13-year-old daughter Ella. From the outside, we're the picture of suburban success. Vanessa's a senior tech manager at Pinnacle Solutions, pulling in 6 figures. I'm a partner at Morrison, Blake & Associates, defending Boston's finest white-collar criminals. Together, we make enough money to afford this gilded cage we call home. But lately, something's been off. It started 3 months ago with the book club. Every Tuesday night, Vanessa would disappear into our home office with a glass of wine and her laptop, claiming she was discussing literature with the girls, the Golden Hollow Book Club, she called it, a sophisticated gathering of educated women exploring the deeper meanings of modern fiction. Bullshit. I've seen the books scattered around our house. 50 Shades of Grey, The Kissing Booth, beach reads masquerading as intellectual discourse. But Vanessa insisted these meetings were important for her social development and female friendships. "You wouldn't understand, Jack," she'd say, waving her manicured hand dismissively. "It's a woman thing." The woman thing seemed to involve a lot of giggling, wine consumption, and hushed phone conversations that ended abruptly whenever I entered the room. Vanessa started working late more often, claiming new projects at Pinnacle. She bought expensive jewelry, not for special occasions, just because she deserved it. When I asked about the $500 earrings that appeared on our credit card statement, she gasped and told me I was being controlling. "Since when do you monitor my spending?" she demanded, her green eyes flashing with indignation. "I work hard for my money, Jack. I think I can buy myself a little something without asking permission from my husband." The gaslighting was professional grade. I'd seen it in court 1,000 times, but experiencing it at home was different, more personal, more cutting. My best friend Nate, who owns Murphy's Tavern downtown, started needling me about it during our weekly beer sessions. "You ever wonder why she's reading 50 Shades for the 3rd time?" he asked one Thursday night, polishing a glass with practiced efficiency. "I mean, how much literary analysis can one book about handcuffs require?" "She says they're exploring themes of female empowerment," I replied, knowing how ridiculous it sounded. Nate snorted. "Female empowerment. Right. And I'm exploring themes of alcoholism by serving drinks." But it wasn't just the books, or the jewelry, or the late nights. It was the way Vanessa looked at me. Or rather, the way she'd stopped looking at me. Where there used to be warmth, even love, now there was calculation. Like she was constantly measuring my worth and finding me wanting. The breaking point came on a rainy Tuesday in October. I was working late on an embezzlement case when I realized I'd left my reading glasses at home, the ones I needed to review the financial documents that could make or break my client's defense. I drove home expecting to find Vanessa in her book club meeting. Instead, I found her in our bedroom, on the phone, speaking in a voice I barely recognized. Sultry, flirtatious, nothing like the tired, distant woman who shared my bed. "I can't wait to see you tomorrow," she was saying. "Jack's in court all day, so we'll have plenty of time to discuss things." I stood in the hallway, my heart hammering against my ribs, listening to my wife plan what was obviously an affair. When she finally hung up, I retreated to my study, grabbed my glasses, and left without saying a word. That night, lying in bed beside her, I stared at the ceiling and wondered when my marriage had become a crime scene. The next morning, over coffee and the newspaper, Vanessa was her usual self, distant but polite. She kissed my cheek goodbye and told me to have a good day at court, the same way she'd done for years. Like nothing had happened. Like she wasn't planning to betray our 15-year marriage in a few hours. I wanted to confront her, demand an explanation. But years of legal training had taught me the value of evidence. Accusations without proof are just noise. And Vanessa was smart enough to deny everything if I came at her empty-handed. So I waited, and watched, and planned. The opportunity came 2 weeks later, in the most ridiculous way possible. Technology has made cheating easier, but it's also made cheaters sloppier. Vanessa's mistake was adding me to the wrong group chat. It was a Thursday evening. I was reviewing depositions in my study when my phone buzzed with a notification. You've been added to Golden Hollow Book Club. I stared at the screen, confused. Vanessa's book club had a group chat. And why was I included? The messages were already flowing. Aaron M. Ladies, wine night at my place Saturday. Bring your appetites. Tara W. Can't wait. My week has been exhausting. Need some girl time. Queen Refuf. Same here. Jack's been extra clingy lately. It's suffocating. Queen V. Vanessa's username was Queen V. I scrolled up, reading weeks of messages I was never supposed to see. What I found made me freeze. This wasn't a book club. It was a wives' club. A secret society of married women rating their husbands like stock portfolios and sharing strategies for upgrades. Tara W. Honestly, girls, I'm starting to think David peaked in college. He's gained 20 pounds and his idea of romance is bringing me gas station flowers. Aaron and M. At least David tries. Mike forgot our anniversary again. I'm seriously considering my options. Queen V. You know what I always say, life's too short for mediocre men. We deserve better. Tara W. Easy for you to say, V, you've got your side situation figured out. Queen V. R is educational. A girl has needs, you know. R. The mysterious R from her phone conversation. I kept reading, my lawyer's mind cataloging evidence like I was building a case. And what a case it was. The group had developed an elaborate rating system for their husbands. Financial stability, physical attractiveness, upgrade potential. They scored their marriages like restaurant reviews. Vanessa had given me a 6 out of 10 overall, with particularly low marks for excitement factor and future prospects. But it got worse. Aaron M. So what's the plan with Jack? You can't string both guys along forever. Queen 5. Jack's useful for now. Good income, stable, great with Ella. But he's not exactly setting my world on fire, if you know what I mean. Tara W. And R is? Queen V. R is intense, passionate, everything Jack isn't. Plus, have you seen his body? The man owns 3 gyms for a reason. 3 gyms. That narrowed it down considerably in our small community. Ryan Mitchell owned Mitchell Fitness Centers, 3 locations across the North Shore. He was also married to Tara. Tara, who was apparently helping my wife plan her affair with Tara's own husband. The betrayal was so complete, so perfectly orchestrated, that I almost had to admire the craftsmanship. These women had turned infidelity into a team sport. I screenshotted everything. Every message, every photo, every casual discussion of their husbands' inadequacies. The evidence was damning, but more importantly, it was comprehensive. This wasn't just about Vanessa's affair. This was about a conspiracy of wives who'd decided their marriages were disposable. Queen 5. The best part is how clueless they all are. Jack actually thinks I'm reading Jane Austen. Aaron M. Men see what they want to see. Makes everything so much easier. Tara W. Speaking of easy, R says Jack's been asking questions about you at the gym. Might want to be more careful. Queen 5E. Jack's harmless. Too ethical for his own good. He'd never do anything that might hurt Ella or damage his precious reputation. Too ethical, too harmless, too stupid to see what was happening in his own house. They were wrong about that last part. I spent the next hour reading through months of messages. The group had 6 core members: Vanessa, Aaron Morrison, Tara Williams, Linda Chen, Sarah Phillips, and Jessica Torres. All married, all living within a 5-block radius of my house, all engaged in various levels of marital sabotage. They shared tips for hiding affairs, strategies for emotional manipulation, and detailed comparisons of their extramarital activities. It was like reading a how-to manual for destroying marriages written by the wives themselves. But the most damaging evidence was yet to come. Queen 5. Update on Operation Upgrade. R and I are getting serious. He's talking about leaving Tara after the holidays. Aaron M. What about Jack? Queen 5. I'm documenting everything. His work stress, the drinking, those anger issues he thinks he hides so well, building a case for primary custody when the time comes. Tara W. Anger issues? Jack's the most even-tempered guy I know. Queen V. That's what makes it so perfect. No one will believe him when he tries to defend himself. Poor Jack, cracking under pressure, becoming unstable. Ella deserves better than that. Anger issues, drinking, instability. Vanessa was creating a fictional narrative to justify taking my daughter away from me. She was planning to destroy my relationship with Ella the same way she'd destroyed our marriage. That's when I stopped being hurt and started being furious. I looked at my phone screen, at these women casually discussing the destruction of their families like they were planning a dinner party. They thought their husbands were too stupid, too trusting, too ethical to fight back. They were about to learn how wrong they were. I typed a single message. Appreciate the honesty, ladies. Really eye-opening stuff. Then I tagged every husband I could identify from their conversations. The response was immediate. Queen 5. Jack, how are you in this chat? Aaron M. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Tara W. Someone remove him now. But it was too late. The damage was done. Within minutes, my phone was buzzing with calls and texts from the other husbands. David Williams, Mike Morrison, the others whose wives had been raiding them like used cars. Jack, what the hell is this? David's voice was shaking when I answered his call. Evidence, I replied calmly. Screenshots saved, everything documented. I suggest you do the same before they delete the chat. Tara's been with your wife's boyfriend? They're all in on this? Looks that way. You might want to have a conversation with your wife, David. A very serious conversation. I spent the next hour fielding similar calls, shocked husbands learning that their marriages were elaborate lies, grown men crying as they read their wives' true opinions of them. It was devastating and necessary. But I was just getting started. The Golden Hollow Community Barbecue happens every October, rain or shine. It's a tradition that brings together all the families in our little suburban paradise for an afternoon of forced sociability and competitive grilling. This year, it was going to be more memorable than usual. I arrived at Riverside Park carrying a cooler full of beer and a phone full of screenshots. Vanessa had left the house that morning without speaking to me, her face pale and her hands shaking. She knew I had the evidence. She just didn't know what I planned to do with it. The park was already crowded with families when I arrived. Kids ran around the playground while parents clustered in their usual social groups. The Golden Hollow Book Club members were easy to spot. They'd formed a tight circle near the pavilion, their voices hushed and their body language screaming panic. Vanessa saw me coming and stepped away from her co-conspirators. She was wearing her favorite sundress, the blue one that used to make my heart race. Now it just looked like a costume. Jack, we need to talk, she said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. I think we're past talking, don't you? I replied, setting down my cooler with deliberate calm. Unless you want to discuss your rating system. I was particularly interested in my excitement factor score. Her face went white. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think, Vanessa. You and your friends have been treating your marriages like a game, rating us, comparing notes, planning upgrades. Very efficient. Around us, other conversations were starting to fade as people sensed the tension. Good. I wanted an audience for this. You're being dramatic, she said, but her voice cracked on the last word. It was just girl talk, harmless venting. Harmless? I laughed, and the sound carried across the park. You documented fake anger issues to build a custody case. You helped Tara plan an affair with your boyfriend. You called your husband harmless and clueless to a group of women who were doing the same thing to their families. Which part of that seems harmless to you? By now, we had everyone's attention. David Williams was walking toward us, his face grim. Mike Morrison was close behind. The other husbands from the chat were converging like sharks. Tara Williams stepped forward, her blonde hair perfectly styled and her smile perfectly fake. Jack, you're misunderstanding the situation. We were just conspiring, I interrupted. The word you're looking for is conspiring. And before you try to gaslight me like you've been gaslighting your husbands, remember that I'm a lawyer. I know evidence when I see it. That's when Ryan Mitchell appeared. I'd seen him around the neighborhood but never up close. He was everything Vanessa's messages had described. Tall, muscular, with the kind of confidence that comes from never being told no. He walked up to our group like he owned the place, which, given his relationship with two of the wives present, maybe he thought he did. Everything okay here? He asked, his eyes moving between Vanessa and Tara with obvious familiarity. Actually, no, I said, turning to face him. Ryan Mitchell, right? Owner of Mitchell Fitness Centers? The man who's been sleeping with my wife while his own wife helps plan the affair? The park went silent. Ryan's confident expression faltered. I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding, David Williams said, his voice carrying across the park, is how long we've been blind to what our wives have been doing. He pulled out his phone and started reading from the chat. David peaked in college. He's gained 20 pounds and his idea of romance is gas station flowers. That's what you really think of me, Tara? Tara's face crumpled. David, please, not here. Where then? He demanded. In private, where you can lie to me again, where you can tell me I'm imagining things while you help my wife's lover plan their future together. Mike Morrison stepped forward, his own phone in hand. My personal favorite is where Aaron discusses my disappointing performance in all areas of life. 15 years of marriage, and that's your professional assessment? The wives tried to form a defensive circle, but it was too late. The evidence was out, the husbands were talking, and the entire neighborhood was watching their perfect facades crumble in real time. Ryan made the mistake of trying to take control of the situation. Look, everyone needs to calm down, he said, stepping between the angry husbands and their wives. Whatever you think you saw in some chat messages, you're blowing this out of proportion. Out of proportion? I stepped closer to him, close enough to see the sweat starting to form on his forehead. You've been sleeping with my wife for months, planning to leave your own wife, helping Vanessa build a fake case against me for custody of my daughter. Which part of that is proportional, Ryan? He opened his mouth to deny it, but Vanessa made a critical error. Jack, stop, she said, grabbing my arm. You're embarrassing yourself. The touch of her hand, the dismissive tone, the public attempt to make me look like the unreasonable one. It was too much. I pulled out my phone and opened the chat screenshots. In a voice loud enough to carry across the entire park, I started reading. R is intense, passionate, everything Jack isn't. Plus, have you seen his body? The man owns 3 gyms for a reason. I looked up at the crowd of neighbors, friends, and family members who were hanging on every word. That's my wife, describing her affair with Ryan Mitchell, to a group that includes Ryan's own wife. Tara Williams let out a sound somewhere between a gasp and a sob. I kept reading. The best part is how clueless they all are. Jack actually thinks I'm reading Jane Austen. Followed by crying, laughing emojis, because apparently my trust in my wife was hilarious. Ryan stepped toward me, his hands clenched into fists. That's enough. Oh, we're just getting started, I said, not backing down. Should I read the part where you and my wife discuss leaving your respective spouses? Or maybe the section where she documents my fake anger issues for her custody case? Fake anger issues? Our neighbor, Carol Henderson, spoke up from the crowd. Jack's the most level-headed person in the neighborhood. That's what makes it so perfect, I read from my phone. No one will believe him when he tries to defend himself. Poor Jack, cracking under pressure, becoming unstable. Ella deserves better than that. The crowd's murmur turned ugly. These people had known me for years. They'd seen me coach Little League, help with school fundraisers, shovel their driveways after snowstorms. The idea that I was unstable or dangerous was so obviously false that it made Vanessa's manipulation attempt look even more calculated. Ryan made his second mistake of the day. He grabbed for my phone. "Give me that," he demanded. I stepped back, and he lunged forward, missing the phone but catching my shoulder. The impact sent me stumbling backward into David Williams, who steadied me and then stepped between Ryan and me. "Don't," David said quietly. "Don't make this physical. You've done enough damage." But Ryan was past rational thought. His affair was exposed, his marriage was over, and his reputation in the community was destroyed. He swung at David, connecting with his jaw and sending him to the ground. That's when the barbecue turned into a brawl. Mike Morrison tackled Ryan, sending both men crashing into the picnic table where the wives had been sitting. Potato salad and wine went flying. Tara Williams started screaming at Vanessa, calling her names that would have made a sailor blush. Aaron Morrison tried to grab Mike's phone, presumably to delete evidence, and ended up in a tug-of-war that sent them both sprawling in the grass. In the middle of the chaos, I found myself face-to-face with Vanessa. "Are you happy now?" she demanded, her perfect hair disheveled and her sundress stained with wine. "You've destroyed everything." "I destroyed everything?" I laughed, and the sound was bitter even to my own ears. "Vanessa, I didn't sleep with someone else's husband. I didn't rate my spouse like a used car. I didn't plan to take away a child from their parent based on lies. You did that. All of it. You don't understand? I understand perfectly. You and your friends decided your marriages were inconvenient. You made plans to upgrade to better models. You just didn't expect the old models to fight back." Around us, neighbors were pulling apart the fighting husbands while their children watched in shock. Someone had called the police. The perfect Golden Hollow community barbecue had become a Jerry Springer episode, and it was all being recorded on a dozen different phones. Vanessa looked around at the destruction, at her friends crying and her lover bleeding from a split lip, at the neighbors who were staring at her with disgust and fascination. "This isn't over, Jack," she said quietly. "You're right," I replied. "It's not." The week following the barbecue was like watching a controlled demolition in slow motion. The Golden Hollow Book Club had imploded, taking several marriages with it, but the fallout was just beginning. By Monday morning, the chat screenshots were circulating through every social media group, email chain, and coffee clatch in our community. The neighborhood Facebook page, usually reserved for lost cat photos and snowplow complaints, became a battlefield of opinions about the book club scandal. I was simultaneously a hero and a villain, depending on who you asked. The betrayed husbands treated me like I'd liberated them from prison. The wives' friends called me vindictive and cruel. The neutral parties were just grateful for the entertainment. But Vanessa wasn't going down without a fight. She launched a counteroffensive that was as calculated as it was desperate. Suddenly, I was the real villain in this story. The controlling husband who violated his wife's privacy. The unstable man who couldn't handle his wife having female friendships. The lawyer who used his professional skills to destroy innocent people. She gave an interview to our local newspaper, the Golden Hollow Gazette, painting herself as a victim of domestic emotional abuse. "Jack has always been controlling," she told reporter Janet Stevens, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. He monitored my spending, questioned my friendships, and invaded my private communications. I was afraid to leave because I knew he'd use his legal connections against me. It was a masterful performance. She hit every talking point that would generate sympathy: financial control, social isolation, professional intimidation. She made my decision to expose the chat sound like the desperate act of an abusive husband rather than the justified response of a betrayed spouse. The article ran on Wednesday with the headline, "Local Woman Speaks Out About Emotional Abuse." By Thursday, I was getting dirty looks at the grocery store and uncomfortable silences at work. That's when I decided it was time to escalate. I'd been documenting everything since the barbecue. Every lie Vanessa told, every attempt to manipulate the narrative, every piece of evidence that contradicted her victim's story. As a defense attorney, I knew that the best way to destroy a false narrative was with facts, so I created my own narrative. I started with Vanessa's office. Pinnacle Solutions prided itself on ethical business practices and professional conduct. Their employee handbook had an entire section about maintaining company reputation and avoiding conflicts of interest. I packaged the chat screenshots, Vanessa's newspaper interview, and a detailed timeline of her affair into a professional-looking folder. Then I hand-delivered it to her supervisor, Margaret Chen, with a cover letter expressing my concern for Vanessa's mental health and professional judgment. "I'm worried about my wife," I told Margaret, sitting in her sterile office overlooking Boston Harbor. "She's been under tremendous stress lately, making poor decisions, engaging in behavior that's completely out of character. I thought her employer should be aware that she might need professional help." Margaret read through the evidence with the expression of someone watching a car accident in slow motion. The chat messages were damning enough, but combined with Vanessa's public claims of abuse and her affair with a married man, they painted a picture of someone whose personal life was spiraling out of control. "Mr. Donovan, this is concerning," Margaret said finally. "We'll need to conduct an internal review of the situation." "Of course. I just want what's best for Vanessa and for Ella. I hope you understand." By Friday afternoon, Vanessa was suspended pending investigation. Pinnacle couldn't fire her for having an affair, but they could question her judgment, her honesty, and her ability to represent the company professionally. The suspension was paid, but the message was clear: her career was in jeopardy. She came home that evening like a hurricane, making landfall. "You bastard!" she screamed, slamming the front door hard enough to rattle the windows. "You went to my office? You talked to Margaret?" I was sitting in my study, reviewing case files like it was any other Friday night. "I was concerned about you, Vanessa. Your behavior lately has been so erratic. I thought your supervisor should know you might need help." "Help? I need help? You're the one who's lost his mind." "Am I?" "Let's see. I discovered that my wife was having an affair, planning to leave me, and building a false case to take away my daughter. I documented the evidence and shared it with people who needed to know. Which part of that seems unreasonable to you?" She stood in the doorway of my study, shaking with rage. "You can't do this to me. I won't let you destroy my life." "I'm not destroying anything, Vanessa. I'm just making sure everyone sees the real you. The woman who rated her husband like a restaurant. The woman who helped other wives betray their families. The woman who was willing to lie about domestic abuse to get what she wanted. Those messages were taken out of context." "Really? Which context makes Jack's harmless, too ethical for his own good, sound, supportive? What context explains helping Tara plan an affair with your boyfriend?" She had no answer for that, so she tried a different approach. "Think about Ella," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "She's already confused and scared. If you keep this up, you'll traumatize her." It was a low blow, and we both knew it. Ella was the one innocent victim in this mess, and Vanessa was trying to use my love for my daughter as a weapon against me. Ella deserves to know the truth, I said. Age appropriately, of course, but she deserves to know that her father didn't abandon her family. Her mother did. You're going to turn my own daughter against me? I'm going to make sure she knows who her parents really are. Both of us, the good and the bad. That's when Vanessa played her final card. I'm taking her, she said. This weekend, we're going to visit my sister in Vermont, give both of us some space to think. No. You can't stop me. She's my daughter, too. Actually, I can. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a legal document. Temporary restraining order, filed this afternoon. You're not taking Ella anywhere until we sort this out in court. Her face went white. You filed a restraining order against me? I filed a motion to prevent removal of a minor child from the jurisdiction pending custody proceedings. The court agreed that given your recent erratic behavior and documented plans to relocate, Ella should remain in her primary residence. Erratic behavior? What erratic behavior? I gestured to the newspaper on my desk, folded open to her interview. Public claims of domestic abuse, suspension from work, an ongoing extramarital affair. The court found these factors concerning enough to grant temporary restrictions. She stared at the legal papers like they were written in a foreign language. You're really doing this. You're really trying to take my daughter away from me. I'm protecting my daughter from a mother who's willing to lie about domestic violence to get what she wants. There's a difference. Vanessa sank into the chair across from my desk, all the fight going out of her at once. How did we get here, Jack? How did it come to this? For a moment I almost felt sorry for her. She looked small and lost, nothing like the confident woman who'd been planning my destruction just weeks earlier. We got here because you decided I wasn't enough, I said quietly. You and your friends turned your marriages into a competition, and you decided to trade up. The only problem is that people aren't cars, Vanessa. You can't just trade us in when you get bored. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did, and now we all have to live with the consequences. She sat in silence for a long moment, staring at her hands. When she finally looked up, her eyes were cold again. This isn't over, she said. I know. But I was already planning the next move. The confrontation I'd been expecting came on a rainy Sunday evening in November. I was helping Ella with her science project when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I could see Vanessa and Ryan standing on my porch, both soaked from the storm and both looking like they were ready for war. Ella, go upstairs and work on your project, I said calmly. I need to talk to your mother. My daughter looked between me and the door, her 13-year-old instincts telling her something was wrong. Dad, is everything okay? Everything's fine, sweetheart. Just some adult stuff to work out. She nodded and headed upstairs, but I could see her lingering at the top of the staircase. Smart kid. She knew this conversation was going to be important. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. Vanessa? Ryan, what can I do for you? We need to talk, Vanessa said. Her hair was plastered to her head from the rain and her makeup was running slightly. She looked desperate and dangerous, which was exactly what I'd been expecting. I think we've said everything that needs saying. No, we haven't. Ryan stepped forward, trying to use his size to intimidate me. You've been spreading lies about us all over town. It needs to stop. Lies? Which part was a lie, Ryan? The affair? The plan to leave your wife? The conspiracy to destroy multiple marriages? I'm curious which facts you'd like to dispute. You took those messages out of context. The context was a secret group chat where married women rated their husbands and planned affairs. What context makes that acceptable? Vanessa pushed past Ryan, stepping closer to the door. Jack, please, can we just talk? Privately? There was something in her voice that made me pause. Not remorse exactly, but calculation. She was planning something and she wanted to get me alone to do it. I think we're past private conversations, don't you? But if you want to talk, we can talk right here. Fine. She glanced around the neighborhood, making sure she had an audience. Several of our neighbors were watching from their windows, drawn by the drama that had been unfolding for weeks. I want my daughter back. Ella lives here, with me, where she's always lived. She belongs with her mother. Her mother who was planning to take her away from her father based on false accusations. That mother. Ryan stepped forward again, his hands clenched into fists. You're poisoning her against Vanessa. It's not right. I'm telling her the truth, age appropriately, but honestly. She deserves to know why her parents are getting divorced. The truth? Vanessa laughed, and the sound was bitter. You want to talk about truth? Let's talk about your drinking, Jack, your anger, the way you've been obsessing over this for weeks. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the November air. She was doing it again, creating a narrative, building a case, trying to make me look unstable in front of witnesses. My drinking? I have a beer or two with Nate on Thursday nights. My anger? I've been calm and rational throughout this entire process. My obsessing? I documented evidence of my wife's affair and conspiracy. Which part of that seems unreasonable? You violated my privacy. You added me to the chat by mistake. I didn't hack anything or break any laws. I just read what you wrote about me and our marriage. You turned the whole neighborhood against me. I shared evidence of what you and your friends were doing. The neighborhood turned against you because they were disgusted by your behavior. Ryan was getting agitated, pacing back and forth on my porch like a caged animal. This is bullshit. You're hiding behind your lawyer tricks and your victim act. Victim act? I'm not the one who claimed domestic abuse in the newspaper. I'm not the one who's been lying to everyone for months. You want to talk about lies? Vanessa's voice was rising, carrying across the neighborhood. Let's talk about how you've been manipulating everyone, how you've been playing the poor, betrayed husband while you systematically destroy my life. I haven't destroyed anything. I've just made sure people know the truth. The truth? The truth is that you're a controlling, manipulative man who can't handle the fact that his wife outgrew him. And there it was. The real Vanessa, not the victim she'd been playing in public, but the cold, calculating woman who'd been planning my destruction for months. Outgrew me? Is that what you call having an affair and conspiring with your friends to rate your husbands like appliances? I call it recognizing that I deserve better than a mediocre marriage with a mediocre man. The words hit like a slap, but they also clarified everything. This wasn't about her unhappiness or my failures. This was about her narcissism and entitlement. She genuinely believed she was better than me, better than our marriage, better than the life we'd built together. Mediocre, I repeated. 15 years of marriage, a beautiful daughter, a comfortable life, and I'm mediocre. You're safe, Jack. Predictable. Boring. I wanted passion, excitement, something more than suburban routine. So you decided to have an affair instead of talking to me about it. What was I supposed to say? Jack, you bore me to tears and I'm sleeping with someone else? Would that have been better? Ryan was nodding along like she was making perfect sense. She deserves to be happy, man. You can't blame her for wanting more. I don't blame her for wanting more. I blame her for lying about it, for conspiring with her friends, for planning to take my daughter away based on false accusations, for trying to destroy my reputation to cover her tracks. You documented fake anger issues for a custody case. You called me unstable and controlling in the newspaper. You've been building a narrative to make yourself look like a victim instead of what you actually are. Which is what? I looked at her, standing on my porch in the rain, her face twisted with anger and entitlement, and I felt something click into place. The hurt was gone. The betrayal was processed. All that remained was cold, professional calculation. A cheater, a liar, a woman who was willing to destroy her family for an upgrade. She slapped me. The sound echoed across the neighborhood like a gunshot. I felt the sting on my cheek, saw the shock in Ryan's eyes, heard the gasp from Ella upstairs, and I smiled. Thank you, I said quietly. For what? For doing that in front of witnesses, for showing everyone exactly who you really are. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. I'd been recording the entire conversation. Everything you just said, everything you just did, it's all documented. The admission that you never tried to work on our marriage, the confirmation that you think I'm mediocre and boring, the physical assault, all of it. Her face went white. You can't use that? Actually, I can. Massachusetts is a one-party consent state for recordings, and since this conversation took place on my property, it's completely legal. Ryan stepped forward. Give me that phone. No. He reached for it, and I stepped back into my house, keeping the door between us. Ryan, if you set foot on my property or touch me in any way, I'll have you arrested for assault and trespassing. And unlike Vanessa's fake abuse claims, I'll have actual evidence. He stopped, his hand frozen in mid-reach. This is what's going to happen, I continued, speaking to both of them. You're going to leave my property. You're going to stop harassing me and my daughter. And you're going to accept that your affair is over, your marriages are over, and your reputations in this community are over. You can't, Vanessa started. I already have. The recording of this conversation will be filed with the court tomorrow as evidence of your continued harassment and your admission that you never tried to work on our marriage. The video of you slapping me will be shared with anyone who still thinks you're the victim in this situation. Jack, please. Please what? Please let you continue lying about me? Please let you take my daughter away? Please pretend that what you did was acceptable? She was crying now, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of frustration, of a plan that had backfired completely. I loved you, she whispered. No, you didn't. You loved what I provided. The house, the lifestyle, the stability. But you never loved me. If you had, you would have talked to me instead of betraying me. Ryan put his arm around her shoulders. Come on, V. Let's go. Yes, I agreed. Let's go. Both of you. Together. You deserve each other. I watched them walk away in the rain, two people who'd destroyed their families for a relationship that would probably implode within months. They thought they'd found something better, but all they'd really found was someone else as selfish and dishonest as themselves. I closed the door and locked it, then looked up to see Ella sitting on the stairs. Dad, are you okay? I sat down beside her, feeling older than my 40 years, but also lighter than I'd felt in months. I'm okay, sweetheart. Better than okay, actually. Is Mom really not coming back? No, she's not. But that doesn't mean she doesn't love you. It just means she made some choices that hurt our family. Ella nodded solemnly. She slapped you. She did. That's not okay. No, it's not. But it's over now. All of it. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the rain against the windows and the sound of our house settling around us. Dad? Yeah? I'm glad you fought back. I hugged my daughter close, thinking about everything we'd been through and everything we'd overcome. Me too, kiddo. Me too. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. Vanessa got supervised visitation with Ella every other weekend and half the assets. I got primary custody, the house, and my reputation intact. Ryan and Vanessa's relationship lasted exactly 3 months after they moved in together. Turns out that people who cheat with you will probably cheat on you. Who could have predicted that? Tara Williams divorced Ryan and took him for everything he was worth. His gym business collapsed under the weight of the scandal and the divorce settlement. Last I heard, he was working as a personal trainer at someone else's facility. The other book club marriages didn't fare much better. David Williams and Mike Morrison both divorced their wives and found new partners who actually respected them. The wives scattered to different communities, their reputations in Golden Hollow permanently destroyed. As for me, I'm still in the same house on Maple Lane, still practicing law, still coaching Little League. Ella's doing great. She's resilient, like her father. We've built a good life together, just the two of us, and sometimes on quiet Sunday evenings, I sit in my study and think about the group chat that changed everything. About how a simple mistake Adding the wrong person to a message thread can expose years of lies and betrayal. Technology makes cheating easier, but it also makes cheaters sloppier. And sometimes, just sometimes, justice is as simple as reading the messages that were never meant for you.